Here we are. Yay.
We wandered into the land of, what do they call this?
That, I don't know.
Oh, never mind.
I don't know what she's talking about. La La Land. No, that was a movie. So, yes, welcome to S.A.L.T. Thank you for joining us. I am waiting for it to show up on the feed so I can share it around. So while I'm doing that, Miranda will now entertain you with her colorful character stories.
Don't have colorful character stories.
You have lots of colorful character stories. You have lots of stories.
But
Yeah.
they're long. They're too long.
You do have long stories.
To tell while,
That's
and then we'd be all done with S.A.L.T. I mean, we'd be, way over time and
Yes.
before we've got started.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but we are going to have a special guest join us today.
Hopefully.
We've fed her full of catnip.
Yes.
So she ought to be very agreeable and happy to be the star of the show.
Star of the show. That's right.
Yes.
Oh, hey, it works.
And her name is Fluff. So I can pretty well that's a dead giveaway that it's cat.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Yes.
So, all right. We are everywhere.
I did feel very cliche as I named her. But turns out Fluff was a really good name for her.
Yes. Yeah.
She has a little bit of fluff.
She has her fluffy characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, hopefully you had a good week. We did. I think we had a good week.
Yeah, we had a good week. Aspen had a very successful week. And so did we. It was a success for all of us.
Yes. Why was it successful?
Well, we took Aspen shopping for her banquet dress.
Oh, yeah.
And we found one on sale.
Now that was a good part.
That was a win for, the children and the adults.
Yes. A win-win for all.
Yes.
Actually, I was ready to get whichever one she wanted, but I really did like the one we ended up with. But, we should have got pictures. Now we're talking about something we can't show everybody. We should have got pictures of that.
Maybe next week.
All right. Next week we'll show Aspen in her banquet dress. Well, we have to wait till we get all the accessories. You have to accessorize these things. Yes. Yes. And Miranda got me a present.
It's called a Fitbit. So somebody can count their steps. Actually, that's not why we got it.
No, I don't. Yeah, no. I can't open it. I love Fitbits.
I had a Fitbit once. I used it. Colby, my youngest son, got it for my birthday once.
Yeah.
And I used it for over a year. And I really did enjoy it. But eventually I kind of figured out how much I was walking. And I quit wearing it eventually. But I enjoyed it. Felt like it got me on track and then has more or less kept me on track, even though I haven't worn it in a long time.
It buzzed. We're doing the unboxing. The unboxing here on S.A.L.T. of the Fitbit. And it turned on. I didn't do anything. It just turned on. Darn it. How to use all this newfangled technology.
Oh, yeah, because Brett doesn't know anything about technology. Notice that's why he's doing it and not me. Yes.
What happened to good old-fashioned watches and clocks? None of this fancy schmancy Apple stuff.
Because no one knows how to read an
Like
analog
that.
clock.
Yeah.
That's how you
Oh, it's got a little high-tech thingy. Ooh.
I think they've had those around for a few years now, Brett.
Let's see. And then they wrap them in these things that you can't get off. Oh, there we go. All right. What am I supposed to do? I can't read it.
Maybe it's upside down.
Oh.
There.
Oh, look at that. First mobile app, download the Fitbit. Oh, I have to download. Never mind. So here it is, and I will get to know what am I supposed to be watching?
Oh, his
Something.
heart rate.
Oh, yeah, my heart rate. Because I don't want to get too low a heart rate and pass out. But.
We don't want that to happen either.
No. Oh, well, that was a very anticlimactic unboxing. I can't actually use it till I download the app. Oh, well. So, there was that piece of excitement. Anticlimactic excitement. So, tell us, Miranda, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about Fluff and stuff.
Ah, yes. So Miranda has the story about how we got cats in our lives.
Well, when we first moved in here, there was a stray cat, and she was really skinny, and I felt really bad for her. But it did appear as though the neighbors across the street were semi-taking care of her. Actually, I was really kind of frustrated at their lack of care of their cat. But anyways.
Well, they had indoor cats that were
Yeah.
theirs.
Yeah.
And they just kind of started feeding, well, what they called Gamora, because they were Marvel fans. So Gamora being from...
How would I know?
Where's Gamora from, Aspen?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Of course, Guardians of the Galaxy. But that's what they called her, Gamora. She's one of the characters. And they even got our little Marvel cat bowl that they took with them, by the way.
Oh.
I think. Anyway.
Or, no, I think they left that
Oh,
with
did they
us,
leave
yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, for the most part, Fluff fended for herself outside. All the time you saw her walking back and forth
Yep.
and back and
Up and
forth
down.
and back and forth because she was constantly looking for food. And she'd catch grasshoppers and I don't know, I'd see her eat out of old wrappers sometimes. And
Yep.
we had just moved in. We were pretty busy with that. And so I felt really bad that I didn't start feeding her right away. But eventually I did start feeding her and petting her. And I mean, she's a very, very sweet cat. And she's the one that came in the very first night that we arrived.
Yeah, it was her and another cat,
yeah.
a white one, I think.
Yeah.
And we just got here, and I opened the door, and they just walked right in like they owned the place. It was
Yep.
really odd. It's like, well, these
Yeah.
cats seemingly have been in here before, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is our place. What are you doing here?
Yeah. Anyways, eventually, I mean, she did gain weight and such, but she looked awful. Like she would wander over to our place, and her face would be covered in cobwebs, and she just wasn't even doing anything to take care of that and clean herself up and such. And of course, being outside, she was pretty dusty all the time. Her fur was really dusty, and
Yeah.
and I felt really bad for her. The first like tornado type storm that came through, she was outside underneath their car.
Yeah.
And
We had to, she made me build her a house that I think Fluff used a few times.
yeah, we built her an outdoor house out of one of those big plastic bins and
Yeah.
such.
We got her a cushion.
Yes. But I don't think she did use it a lot. She used it some, but not a lot.
Yeah, it's got bad
Yeah.
weather. Cold, she would
Yeah.
come, yeah.
Yeah, but the neighbors would also leave their garage door cracked. And so she would go in there as a place of safety and a little bit of warmth and such. So anyways, the outdoor Fluff had a very loud, obnoxious meow.
Yeah.
And she looked sad all of the time. All of the time, okay? So eventually it got to be about December and it dropped below freezing and such. So, well, it's time to bring Fluff inside, even though we already had an indoor cat who was not going to be happy if we brought another cat inside.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, in good conscience, leave Fluff outdoors in below freezing temperatures. So we brought her in, and it took months before her loud, nasally, foghorn type meow started to disappear. Like, at least 6 months or longer, along with her the sad look she always had on her face. It was so awful. But she spent, well, of course, cats always groom, but she got herself all cleaned up. It took quite a while for that too, but now her fur coat is just so silky and everything. And she has a sweet little meow now.
She has a lot more expressive mouths. It's not just the constant loud meow, meow. I mean, now it's really like she's talking to you. Like she'll react to you, and it might be a little meow, or how you doing, Fluff? Like meow. And well, she wants out or something. She still has her louder voice, but she's just got a much wider range of expression than when she was outdoor cat. Well, outdoor cat, she was one constant foghorn. And now she's got a whole vocal range.
Yeah, and for a long time, months and months, 7, 8 months at least, I thought, wow, Fluff was the appropriate name for this cat, because anytime there's wood floors in here, and so every week when I would, dust broom the place up, oh my goodness, massive amounts of fluff fur underneath the couches and such.
Yes.
So finally,
Her full name is H.R. Fluff and Stuff.
yes.
We should say that because I came up with the name. It
Yeah.
was my name I gave her.
Okay.
H.R. Fluff and Stuff.
Okay.
From the 60s TV children's cartoon, H.R. Puff and Stuff. You may have heard.
Okay.
Fluff and Stuff. H.R. Anyway, continue.
So finally, usually I do the floor cleaning and such, but every now and again Brett or Aspen would do it eventually, and I noticed that they weren't getting as much fluff up, and I'd think they're not doing a very good job, and then turns out that Fluff quit fluffing all over the place. So the main point of this long story about Fluff is that there is a big, big, big difference between the Fluff who was outside taking care of herself versus the Fluff who is inside where we take care of literally everything she
Everything
needs,
else, yes.
basically.
Have you shown the pictures yet? Oh, wow. Those are pictures of our two cats. Did you show Kitty? All right, so Kitty, first on her throne, and then, as she normally is, sprawled out on our bed in the most obtrusive, worst spot to be on, whichever bed she's on. She kind of picks that and says, I'll sit down here. And then Fluff, too, when she was first, the point was when she first started coming in, and then I think it was her sleeping somewhere, and she was, all comfortable and everything. But I guess we can give you a live shot. Why don't you just take the phone, and since she has gotten comfortable and is now sitting regally in her position, looking down upon her kingdom.
Yes, there's also I shouldn't say big difference, but there is a difference between the Fluff who has indulged in catnip
Yes.
and the Fluff who has not indulged in catnip.
Yeah. So right now she would probably sing a meow here or there, but she's had quite a little fill of catnip.
And quite honestly, she is the sweetest cat. Like, if you were going to pick out a cat's personality, you would pick out Fluff in
Yeah.
a second. She's
Yeah.
just the sweetest kitty ever. And so, like I said, there is a big difference between the Fluff who's outdoors taking care of herself, providing for herself,
Yeah.
and the Fluff who's indoors where we take care of everything for her.
Yeah,
And-
big difference.
And so we often wonder, how do we actually change? We want to have that closer walk with God, and we want to see change in our life. We want to, be walking on the path of righteousness and doing those good and righteous things, right? And so how do we do that? Well, okay, the plain and simple answer is go inside. Go inside where God is there, going to take care of everything, provide everything that you need. It's an entirely different experience, and you will become an entirely different person inside than when we are outside providing for ourselves.
What does that look like, Miranda? Living inside versus living outside.
Okay, we kind of talked about that last week or in the week before, and we do talk about this on a regular basis because we're humans and we tend to forget really, really, really fast. So that's probably why we talk about it all the time, because I forget really, 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 really fast. So basically, do we have to win? In situations with people sometimes, do we have to win? Do we have to prove that we are right? Even if maybe we recognize eventually that we aren't. We still got to be right.
How many times do you find yourself going through life, some even small situations, and just like, I got to win. Or no matter what, I have to win this argument, or I have to win this debate, or everyone needs to see that I'm right about this.
Yeah. Do we have to put others down in order to put ourselves up, right? Do we refuse to forgive because we are right and they are wrong? And that is a lot of times is true. We are right and they are wrong. But Jesus doesn't ask us that part of the equation. He just says, forgive. You need to forgive. And so,
Never forget, forgiving others is more for us than it is for them.
right, absolutely. It gives us peace, and we can move on from that situation and leave it
Yeah.
in the past.
Whether the other person does or not, it allows us
yeah.
to move on.
And they don't have to. That's not necessarily our responsibility. We can't make them do anything, but we can respond to God's love to us and share that with others.
Yeah.
Do we live in competition? Do more to be more and or do more. Brett added this part. I know this part.
Let me take it over here.
I'm like, wait, what's this in my notes? Usually he like highlights his or does something.
I even made it try to sound like you.
Yes, I know. It's exactly what I say. And I
it
started
is.
reading it. I'm like, I'm so confused.
Do we have to live in competition? Do we have to do more to be more or have more? And that's living between the restful, peaceful place with God versus, out here on our own, trying to do it on our own. And it is, we tend to live in a mode of competition with other people, even with ourselves. And it's like, I have to accomplish, I have to do more and make my mark in the world and be more and have more. So I have to keep going. And it's a very, very tiresome hamster wheel you get caught in. And
yeah, and I would suggest just trying to recognize, first of all, that we actually even do that. It becomes such a part of ordinary living that we don't even stop to think that maybe we are in that situation providing for ourselves rather than allowing God to provide peace for us or forgiveness for us. And
yeah. When you look early on in life, and it kind of sounds like, no, I don't do that when you say it out loud, but how a lot of Christians tend to live like they do things because, and they may not even know it themselves, at the time, but it's, I have to do this so I'm good enough, or this is the right thing, so I'm supposed to do the right thing, so I'll feel good about myself, or I'll, deserve whatever blessing God throws my way, like we can ever deserve anything. And it's just a subconscious frame of mind sometimes we get in, especially if we've lived that way for a long time and you can't recognize it ourselves. It's more about why you're doing what you're doing. And like being able to do things in a place of a peaceful state of mind and heart.
Right. And a submission to Jesus and our relationship with him.
Yeah. You are not doing things so we can be loved or be good or feel good. Or we are because we are. We are created. And so God's love for us is because we are who we are, not because of what we do.
Right, absolutely.
And that's one difference between living inside is it's a safe place. You're warm, you're safe, you're cared for, you're loved, and you're protected. Where on outside it's like, I'm going to, like Fluff used to do, I'm going to prowl and I'm going to be King Kitty of the area, which she still gets into every now and then.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there is a cat, and we called her Bully Cat.
Bully Cat.
She's a neighbor cat that would come over and try to bully Fluff.
Bully Fluff.
And so now Fluff does her meowing from the inside. But now that she's been in for so long, she can see Bully Cat, and it really doesn't bother her.
Oh, she used to hear it.
Oh, goodness, yes. She would sit at the window at all hours of the day, and sometimes
and
dark.
she still sees her now, but now she just sticks her tongue out. I'm inside, you're not.
Yeah, because before it was like, ah.
Kid just goes meow out the window. It says, "Sucks to be you, doesn't it, Bully Cat?" That's right.
We feel a little bad for Bully Cat.
A little bad. Yeah.
A little. But, yeah.
Anyway, what were we talking about, Miranda?
The difference between being inside and having God provide everything for us, and being outside and providing everything for ourselves, and how being inside just it does change us into the person who God created us to be, because He is the one doing everything for us. And so, so take for example, when the kids were little, I used to buy them clay to play with, right? And you know how that is, if you've had kids, you buy them clay, and it's fun, and they make little shapes, like they might make some food, little hamburgers and buns. Aspen used to make all kinds of stuff, and little plates to serve it on, and cups and everything.
Yeah, I don't know that Aspen was normal, though. Other children eat the Play-Doh, and Aspen actually made a whole restaurant out of Play-Doh.
Yes, that she did. She was actually very good at it.
That was good.
Anyways, so the kids had a playroom and such, and every now and again we need to go inside into the playroom and do a little bit more of a deep cleaning than just having the kids clean up, right?
The kids?
The kids. This was when the kids were little.
We have one kid. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we'd go in, everybody's doing their part to clean up, and I'd find this.
What kids did you have?
Lumps.
Everybody doing their part to clean up?
Yes, actually.
How did you get that to work?
Well, it worked very well.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Did y'all have the cleanup song?
They might have sung it. I don't know. I mean,
Aspen knows it. Clean up, clean up. Apparently she's forgotten or refuses to acknowledge that is something she would ever do.
So anyways, I'd find this old dried up clay, and so I would just throw it out because I thought it was useless. Turns out I've discovered recently that you can actually rejuvenate old dried up clay by putting it in a Ziploc with water, and then apparently it becomes softened and it can be used again. Well, let's call the water the Holy Spirit, right, and us the clay. And when we come inside and we choose to let God do all for us, and we're in the presence of the Holy Spirit and listening to his voice, and he changes us there back into who God created us to be to start out with. And we may not even know who that person is when we first get started on the journey. We have this idea of, I need to do this, this, and this to be good and right, and such, and those may not even be on God's list the way we perceive them to be. He may have something entirely different for us to do that we had never thought needed to be changed in our lives.
I'm going to pet Fluff because Fluff needs petting.
Okay, so maybe for example, like Fluff, instead of meowing rather loudly and obnoxiously, which as humans we can do on occasion, we start to use a nicer indoor tone of voice. Okay, so you know what? We have been talking about Abraham for quite a number of weeks by now. And so how does this relate to the story of Abraham?
I don't know, Miranda. Tell us, how does this relate to Abraham? See, that's my part. My job is to feed her lines.
Because I wasn't going to say the next part anyways.
I was used to it. I was sitting there going, I need to say something.
He's petting the Fluff.
Oh, yeah, we were petting the Fluff.
Okay, so Abraham did choose to follow God, right? And live a life of faith and righteousness. And, well, okay, so maybe I should say that he chose to live a life of learning to live faith and live out righteousness. Yes. Because that's all of our journey as well. We think, well, I'm going to live faithful and I'm going to live righteous. Well, we're actually we're learning to live faithful and we're learning to live righteous.
Yes, he made a big decision to follow God, but that wasn't the end of it. It was then that journey began on, now I'm going to learn how to live life, following God in all things.
Right.
And sometimes he was successful, and sometimes he wasn't. Right.
And so there were times, when he chose to allow God to protect him, and other times when he chose to protect himself. Well, lying, for example, when he lied about Sarah being his sister rather than his wife and such. And the thing is, we feel if we don't protect ourselves, it's not going to be done. Abraham, for example, if he didn't lie and say that his wife was his sister, how else was he going to be protected? He couldn't see any other way at that point in time. And so if he didn't provide, and also if he didn't provide his own heir, it wasn't going to get done. That's how he saw it. I mean, his wife was too old, and so he looked around for a way to make that happen. Now, granted, it was Sarah who said, hey, take my maid and we'll see what happens. But he went ahead and agreed to the plan and thought that it worked really well. Okay, so we have hindsight, right? We know what the whole story is. And we can see that God always had a plan to provide for him and to protect him. And so God has no need of our strength, none whatsoever. God's words also are not just hot air evaporating into nothing, but truth, taking shape into real things that he has promised.
Over time,
right. Sometimes we only see the words and we have not yet seen them take shape. And that was Abraham. That's why it was a little bit hard, because he waited a long time for some of those things. And
we wait for ourselves to take shape. The words start to shape us over time.
yes, we come into the presence of God, and we can see those changes. But just like Fluff, it's been little bits at a time. And even now, like she went outside yesterday, and maybe she was out there about half an hour, I think.
Yeah.
And she came back inside, and all of a sudden she had a big, loud, obnoxious meow again, and she looked so sad. And she's the one who wanted to go out there, so out she went.
Boy, I'm glad we don't get what we want and regret it sometimes.
Yeah, it's really a good thing. Yeah, it's a good thing we learn from other people's mistakes.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Learn from cats. Learn from Kitty's mistake.
Yes. So yeah, we're changed in the waiting. Fluff didn't become a different cat on the first day, or the first week, or even the first month. In fact, it's just over a year now, and she still believes some things that aren't true. Take, for example, the garage is a place of safety. She just inherently believes that, and she always wants to go out to the garage.
Yeah.
And so...
And sometimes I'll let her out in the garage, and I'm like, it's going to be cold, and she'll so I let her out. And then occasionally we'll get busy and I'll forget. And then I go back and I open the door and she's been sitting there and she just shoots inside.
Like she is ready to come in for sure.
Like, gonna listen to me next time, are you?
But no, if not a few hours, at least later, the next day, she'll definitely want back out there. But the funny part is I have a big pot that I had flowers in last year and with dirt in it, sitting out in the garage. And she just loves to go lie out there and sleep in that pot of dirt.
Yeah.
It's rather amusing.
And
but
it gives her the feeling of being outdoors again.
Yes, but being in the garage as a place of safety didn't work out so well last summer. We didn't realize that she was in the garage, and we closed the garage door. And hours later, and this was when it was over 100 degrees outside, hours later, and it's starting to get dark, we're realizing, okay, she hasn't come home like we thought she was going to. Where is she? And so we double checked the garage, and she came out, but it took several days for her to get her energy back. Yeah, she was pretty wiped out after being in all that heat for so long.
Yep. And here's the big silence in any broadcast you try to avoid. But.
Yes, but it's like, said that. Where are we now?
I try so hard.
Yes, he does. He does. Okay, so God has no need of our strength. Just like Fluff is an entirely different cat when she is inside where we do everything for her, than she is from the cat when she is outside taking care of herself. So we too, if we want real change in our lives, we need to go inside, the place where God does provide all that we need, rather than us trying to provide for ourselves all that we need, because those are two entirely different ways of living, and they result in two entirely different things. They both have different outcomes.
And if we're using Fluff as a allegory to our lives, so Fluff was convinced the garage was a safe place, and she got in there, and we didn't know it. But then one thing we did do, I do remember, is having the door and calling for her, Fluff, and she didn't meow back. She didn't. She stayed. And so sometimes, if we take ourselves into places that aren't good for us and God calls us, answer and go, because He's calling us to safety. Because sometimes when we stay in a bad place for a long time, it takes a while to get our energy and our everything back.
It's true. It's true. It is pretty amazing how you're like, woohoo, wow. Just loving the relationship with God that you have at that moment, and then all of a sudden we get busy, maybe on a trip or whatever, and it doesn't take too long. Like, it takes just a few days or a week, and you're off track. You get back, and it takes weeks to get back to where you were before. It's not a good thing.
So there you go. Well, I guess that's it for this week.
It is kind of a little short and fluffy-ish today, but...
short and fluffy, get it? You probably didn't even mean it that way, did you?
I did, actually.
Did you?
Look at me go.
Mommy made a pun. Yay.
Yay.
All right. Well, hope you had a good week, and thanks for joining us. I don't know what was going on in Sabbath school today because I wasn't there. Miranda was. I was doing youth Sabbath school.
Yes. We should have traded spots.
Yes, and but yeah, usually Miranda gets something from Sabbath school and comes home with it. Like, but today, not so much.
Today. No.
Not so much. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week. Probably saying something else about Abraham, I'm sure.
Yes.
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. But yeah, have a great rest of your Sabbath and a